Hello. If you are watching this video, it means you have been recently appointed by the Genesee County Probate Court as a guardian or conservator for another individual. This video is being provided as a courtesy from the Genesee County Probate Court to assist you in organizing your paperwork for accountings that may be due in your file. You should have a guardianship and conservatorship accounting procedures packet that was provided to you by the probate court. Please use this packet to follow along with this video seminar, as we will use references from the packet to inform you about your duties. As always, if you have any questions about your responsibilities, please contact an attorney to assist you, as the court is not able to provide legal advice. Please refer to the cover page of your packet. You will notice at the middle of the form a reference to the Michigan Supreme Court website, which is www.courts.michigan.gov. It is at this site where you'll be able to access any approved state of Michigan court forms that are filed with the Genesee County Probate Court. You are able to click on court forms and search for the forms that might be required. The Genesee County Probate Court also provides these forms at a cost to you of 50 cents per form if you wish to purchase them at the counter. You can otherwise find forms that may be applicable in your case on our website, which is www.gcprobatecourt.com. You will also notice on the cover page of the packet the Genesee County Probate Court's address, which is 900 South Saginaw Street, room 502, Flint, Michigan 48502. This is the location for all filings with the Genesee County Probate Court. If you are in a position to file your paperwork, you must do so either at the counter or by mail to this address. You will also notice on the cover page the Genesee County Probate Court's phone number, which is 810-257-3528. Please be advised this is often a busy line. However, we will certainly do our best to assist you. Before we proceed with the substance of the seminar, please listen to the following items. You have been recently appointed as a guardian or conservator. As such, you are what's known as a fiduciary. A fiduciary, essentially, is someone who has a legal obligation to act in the best interest of another individual. The individual for whom you are appointed is what's known as a ward. You may hear me referring to fiduciary and ward throughout this presentation. You are being provided with these accounting resources because as a fiduciary under the laws of the state of Michigan, you are required to file annual accountings to account to the court for any financial decision-making and financials that have been handled by you to be approved by the probate court. The first form in our packet you will see is a proof of restricted account and annual verification of funds on deposit form. This form is generally only applicable for conservators of minors. That is, if you are appointed as a conservator of a minor, this form would be applicable in your case. This form is only applicable in adult cases if the court specifically requires that you restrict an account belonging to the ward. If you are a minor conservator, or if you've been appointed by the court as an adult guardian or conservator, and you have to restrict accounts belonging to the ward, you must do so within 28 days of your appointment. You must take a blank copy of this form to the financial institution where the accounts are being held and provide the form to the banker or financial institution representative. That individual will sign and date the form, complete the substantive areas, and by signing and dating, they will certify that that account is indeed restricted with that financial institution. The financial institution will likely provide the form back to you to be filed with the court, or in the alternative, will seek to file the document with the court itself. Please be advised this form is due within 28 days of your appointment as a minor conservator or an adult guardian or conservator for whom account restriction is ordered in your case. If you have a question about whether you have to restrict an account in your case, please refer to your order or your letters of guardianship or letters of conservatorship that have been issued to you. If you have not been ordered to restrict accounts, you can disregard this form. The next form in our packet, which is on page 2 of the packet, is the inventory form. This form is important and is required for all types of cases. You will notice that we are using the example of John A. Smith as our ward. You will also notice that Jane A. Smith is the court-appointed fiduciary in this case. The inventory form is filed within 56 days of your appointment by the court as a fiduciary, and the inventory should reflect the types of assets on hand belonging to the ward on the date of your appointment. So, for example, if you were appointed on March 1st, 2020, the assets that are listed on the inventory should be those assets in existence on March 1st, 2020 for the ward. You have 56 days to investigate and compile the assets belonging to the ward. But when you do file this form, it should reflect the assets in existence on the date of your appointment. It may be helpful to think of this form as your first day on the job as a court-appointed fiduciary. What were the assets in existence belonging to the ward when your first day on the job as a guardian or first day on the job as a conservator? Please compile these assets and list them appropriately on the inventory. You will notice in the case of John Smith, there are 5 types of assets that John owns on the date Jane was appointed. John has a savings account, a checking account, stocks at GM, a piece of real estate in Burton, and an automobile, a 2016 Buick Century. We will now generally explain the types of assets and how they should be listed on the inventory. For bank accounts, please obtain the bank statement that would reflect the balance of the bank account or accounts on the date of your appointment. For example, if you were appointed on March 1st, the bank account balances should reflect the ward's assets on March 1st. With items like stocks and bonds or securities, please find the most recent bank statement or trading value of these assets on the date of your appointment. For pieces of real estate, you may use the most recent tax assessment on the property and double the state equalized value for the property. For example, in the case of John Smith, the state equalized value of the real property was $21,500. Therefore, when Jane completed her inventory, she doubled the state equalized value to list the total value of the property as $43,000. For properties such as automobiles or other titled property, you can use Kelley Blue Book or a similar resource. The inventory form is a critical form if you are filing accountings with the court, as it serves as the starting point for your accountings that are to be filed. You will notice on the next page there are detailed instructions about how to complete the inventory form. For things like personal property, please use your best judgment as to what should be listed. The inventory form is only filed one time. It is not a recurring annual form to be filed. Please remember it is due 56 days within the date of your appointment. If you discover that when you filed your inventory there may be additional assets that are discovered at a later date, you are certainly always free to amend your inventory to reflect those assets. You will notice a checkbox area on the top of the form indicating amended. If you need to amend your form, please prepare a new form with the original assets, including the additional discovered assets, and check amended. When you file your inventory, you must attach documentation that verifies the balances listed on the inventory. For example, you must attach bank statements or the tax assessment document or a Kelley Blue Book readout if you are using these types of assets. Before proceeding to the account procedures, please be advised that if you are a minor conservator and watching this video, you need not file annual accounts with the court. Your only requirements are the inventory form and an annual verification of funds on deposit form that should be filed every year confirming the account restriction in the minor conservatorship case remains until the minor turns 18. The next form on our packet is the account of fiduciary form. This is indicated by page 4 on the packet. The majority of the remaining seminar will concern the accounting procedure and the accounting form. Please be advised that this accounting form is due each and every year you are serving as a fiduciary with the probate court who handles finances. A few items of note. If you are handling finances and you have a guardianship and a conservatorship case for one individual, you will file your annual accounts in the conservatorship file. If you are a guardian only and not a conservator, you will file annual accounts in the guardianship file. There may come a circumstance where you are not handling any money belonging to the ward as a guardian. If this were the case, you are certainly free to file a petition to waive the accounting requirement in your case. However, unless the court specifically waives the account requirement, you would be ordered to file annual accounts with the court. You will notice that we're using the John Smith example in this form. Jane Smith, again, is the fiduciary, and this is her first annual account with the probate court, which provides a summary of the financial transactions that took place during the first year of her appointment as a fiduciary for John. You will notice that the accounting period covers the time period March 13th, 2019 through March 13th, 2020. This is very important for your case, as this serves as the date of your appointment with the probate court. Your accounting period is dictated by your date of your appointment with the court. In this case, Jane Smith was appointed on March 13th, 2019. Therefore, each year she will be covering the window March 13th through March 13th of the following year when she files her annual account. If you were appointed August 1st, for example, your accounting period with the Genesee County Probate Court is August 1st through August 1st of the following year. There are two areas on the first page of the account that speak to schedules you need to be aware of when you're filing your account. On the left side of the account form is Schedule A. This is where you list the income and gain that was earned by the ward during the accounting period. You'll see in the case of John Smith, he earned Social Security income, income from a GM pension, and interest on a bank account. Schedule B is where you list and itemize the categories of expenses that were paid for John's care during the first accounting period. In the case of John, he has ABC assisted living expenses, medical expenses, personal needs, insurance, property taxes, income taxes, and home repairs. As a form of best practice, it may be wise to create a separate standalone account for your ward, whereby all income that is earned by the ward during the year is deposited into the account, and any expenses that you expend as fiduciary on behalf of the ward using the ward's expenses come out of that same account. Therefore, at the end of your accounting period, you are able to review the bank accounts and compile your Schedule A and Schedule B by categorizing the deposits and expenses. Please be aware not to commingle expenses of yours or create multiple accounts if you can avoid it, as this may prove quite difficult in compiling your annual account that's to be filed with the probate court. Turning to the next page account, you will notice Schedule C at the top. Schedule C is an area where you list any items that were sold or disposed of during the accounting period. In John's case, Jane sold John's stock at GM. You will notice that the date acquired the stock is the date Jane was appointed by the probate court, which is 3/19/19. The date sold, roughly 5 months later, should also be listed. The value at the time acquired by Jane would be the value that's listed on the inventory form, which is the first form you filed. The proceeds of sale or disposition indicates the amount that the property was sold at. You'll notice that John, recognized a gain of $301 on the sale of the stock. This gain would go back on Schedule A for the accounting period under disposition gain, if any, from Schedule C. Conversely, if you had to sell or dispose of an asset belonging to the ward and there was a loss on that asset, the loss would be reflected on Schedule B as disposition loss, if any, from Schedule C. The last schedule on the account is Schedule D, which is itemized assets remaining at the end of the accounting period. You will notice at the end of the accounting period, John still has his Genesee Bank savings account, he still has his Genesee Bank checking account, still has the real estate, and he still has his car. What you will notice is not on Schedule D any longer that was on the initial inventory was the stock. As we know, Jane sold the stock, reported the sale on Schedule C, and reported the income and the gain on Schedule A. Schedule D reflects the assets that are in existence at the end of the accounting period. That balances of these assets should be those in existence on March 13th, 2020. Please now direct your attention to the summary area under the first page of the account. The first line in the summary area says balance on hand from last account or value of inventory of first account. For this area, you must input the figure of the inventory that was filed when you were first appointed by the court. The next line says add income in this accounting period. You must simply input the income, which would be the total from Schedule A, into this area. The third line says total assets accounted for. This is simply adding line 1 and line 2. The fourth line says subtract disbursements in this accounting period, total from Schedule B. You simply input your total that you got as far as Schedule B for expenses and disbursements and put the same figure on line 4. Lastly, total balance of assets remaining should be what you get after subtracting line 4 from line 3. A critical point to note in this regard is when you finally have your total balance of assets remaining, that figure should match perfectly to your total figure from Schedule D. If they match, that indicates you've done a proper and balanced accounting. If they do not match, it means you may have to review your accounting to find where the discrepancy lies. When Jane files her second account, of course, the second account will cover March 13th, 2020 through March 13th, 2021. On her second account, the starting balance under the summary will be the ending balance from the first account, or the ending balance that's listed on Schedule D of the total from the first accounting. This will be her starting point for the second account. The same process will occur year to year for a guardian or conservator filing accounts. That is, you will use the previous balance of assets remaining on Schedule D as your starting point for the further year's accountings. Please be advised there's a $20 filing fee for filing accounts with the court. You must attach copies of any bank statements that would verify the assets on Schedule D when you file your accounting. Once your account is complete and balanced, you would prepare your material to be filed with the probate court. Please note that your annual account must be filed 56 days from the expiration of the accounting period. Therefore, if you're doing your first account and your accounting period concludes on March 13th, 2020, you have 56 days from this date to go to the bank, review your paperwork, review the bank statements, and complete your accounting. When your accounting is in order, you should sign and complete the material on page 3 of the account form. If you are requesting fiduciary fees during this period, they should be indicated on number 6, and you must include a detailed statement of the services performed in order for the court to approve your fiduciary fees. Please be advised if fiduciary fees are approved, these fees would come from the ward's finances and should be reflected on Schedule B for accounting year 2 and so on and so forth. You must also file a petition to allow accounts with the court at the time you're filing your annual account. You will see an example of this form, page 7 on the packet. This again is in the example of John Smith. Lastly, you should prepare a notice of hearing to have your first account reviewed by the court. An example of this form is on page 8 of the packet. Please be advised that you must have your accountings approved by the court after your first year and every 3 years thereafter. You must file an annual account each and every year. However, you need not set a hearing to have your accounts allowed until every 3 years after your first year. Lastly is the proof of service. For any document you file, you must serve the documents on all interested parties. You'll see in the case of John Smith, Jane served John, Ronald, Amy, and Jack personally. These are the interested parties in John's case, essentially the same folks that would have been served when you were appointed as a guardian or conservator. Please be advised that you must effectuate proof of service of your account, your petition to allow your account, and your notice of hearing for when the account is being heard. You must serve all interested parties with these documents and file a proof of service in advance of your court date. In Jane's case, she served all the interested parties on April 13th, 2020, And lastly, Jack Doe was served personally on April 25th. You will notice that her hearing date is July 1st, 2020. Because she filed her proof of service timely, she will be in a position to have her hearing on July 1st, 2020 for the court to review her account. If you have any questions about completing the annual account of fiduciary, you may refer to the court's Instructions for Completing Annual Account of Fiduciary form. This is a 4-page instruction form that detailed instructions line by line on how to complete the annual account form. Lastly, if you need further help with the accountings, you may want to contact a probate attorney or an accountant to assist you. This has been a video seminar of the guardianship and the conservatorship accounting procedures. The court does hold in-person seminars to go over this material on Tuesdays at noon. If you are appointed by the court as a guardian and conservator and would like to attend an in-person seminar, you are certainly welcome to do so. Again, Tuesdays at noon are the general dates and times for the accounting seminar. Thank you for watching.